Hey everyone, welcome back to Seams and Downs, the show where we follow the seams of the softball and the downs of the football field. And we talk about everything in between. I'm your host, Doc Metter, and today we're diving into a hot summer topic, particularly for my son college camps. If you're a parent, you're wondering what all these invitations are when it comes to these sports camps, particularly football. And of course, they resonate and they happen for softball. But this particular episode is really geared towards the football experience. But again, if you're a parent and you're trying to map out your summer, or your player is wondering what camp to attend, you're going to want to stick around to this one. Most importantly, what are summer camps? Let's just start at the top here. College camps come in different flavors, if you will. And while they all happen on various campuses, some actually happen on college campuses, some are actually hosted by high schools. We had our first experience with the college camp yesterday at our local high school, Bartlett High School. The Bartlett Panthers is who my son plays for, Ben. And that was a eye-opening experience, a mini first, well, a first of many, hopefully. Camp started at 8:30 in the morning. Ben and I are riding up to the high school. The real luxury behind all of this is the high school actually hosted the camp. And Henderson State came out and put the camp on. But the luxury behind all of this is that we're only 5 minutes away from the high school. So Ben could actually get that extra little 10, 15 minutes of sleep. But jumping back into it, so these events are hosted, at a variety of locations. Again, yesterday was hosted at Bartlett High School. Sometimes they're under the blazing sun. Sometimes your weather may be ominous, and your weather may be permitting, if you will, right? It's summertime. They don't all. How do I put this? So what I've noticed is that these camps don't all serve a. They don't all serve the same purpose, and that's what's interesting too. As I was going down through the schedule and everything, the remind feature that was going out, we kept looking. I looked at Christine and I was like, okay, well, we got a couple of things going on. We got the high school talking about the University of Memphis. We're talking about the Henderson State camp. Talking about Austin P. Before you know it, it's a full-time job trying to figure out what's going on. What am I going to do with my son? I looked at Ben and I'm like, Ben, what do you want to do? And of course, he's just kind of like, I mean, I really don't know what to do. And I was like, yeah, I have to kind of think about that because Ben's never been down through here. Then we're all just asking him what he wants to do. I mean, he doesn't know. He doesn't know the answer to that, right? So I had to do a little research. All right, so what are some expectations, right? There's lots of research that's out there. I mean, guys, look, this isn't the first time that a camp has gone on. It won't be the last. But the camps serve a different purpose. And what I found out, and what I've been studying up on and just trying to get my mind wrapped around is, things like an exposure camp. In addition to an exposure camp, you've also got a skills camp. Then you also have an ID camp. Interesting enough, literally ID camp. I really didn't know what any of those mean, and rightly so. There is a method to this. But I want to talk about what's more. What is a college camp? In the world of youth sports, particularly football, college camps are events hosted by college athletics programs. Again, I mentioned that a high school could actually be the grounds for which a college could come and put the camp on or whatever, what have you. But that's in and of itself, that's what it is. College camps are literally just events hosted by a college athletic program. Those camps are usually held in the summer and are designed to bring in middle school and high school athletes for a day, for a weekend, of a couple of things. One, training. Two, evaluation. And let's go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off. In some cases, they're identifying for recruiting. They're trying to recruit for their program. Now, this is for a host of folks. This could be Division I, it could be Division II, NAIA. I mean, you're looking at a host of things. The recruiting aspect really starts to pick up here in the state of Tennessee around the age of 13. Now, I'm sure that there might be a variety of ways to start prospecting and things of that nature, but that's another episode. I want to talk about recruiting in another episode. Wanted to keep this simple and focused on just what a camp is, because it's really, really there's a lot of information that's out there, and there's a lot of noise, if you will. And so there's a lot to take in for a sports parent trying to follow their kid around, particularly if you've got several kids that are involved in sports. Keep that in mind too. But here things can kind of get tricky. Like I mentioned, not all camps are the same, and not all are designed with recruiting in mind. All right, so I do want to make it very blatant about that. I learned that, it's not always about the recruiting. Some are designed to actually teach. Some are built to scout talent, and some are just there to raise money for the program. I'm going to say those three again. Soak this in, folks. Some are designed to teach. Some are there to scout the talent. And some are just simply there to raise money for their program. And if you're a parent like me trying to figure out which camp to choose, which we were for the past week, understanding those differences is absolutely crucial. It's crucial for you. It's crucial for your sanity. It's crucial for your sports player, your athlete. It's very, very crucial. Now, if you're listening to this and you're scrolling through Instagram or you're on Facebook and you see like an elite prospect camp or a summer, I'm all wrapped up with excitement on this particular episode. So summer skills session. All right. A college ID camp. Those all kind of sound the same, right? Maybe? Okay. Well, to me, they do. All right. So, but each one is built, like I said, with a different purpose. And they're not all going to give your player, your athlete, your star, your stud, the same kind of attention, nor the same opportunity. It's not going to happen. So what do we do? What do you do? You have to dig into a little bit deeper, just a little deeper, scratch beyond the surface and ask yourself, one, who's running the camp? Is it your Henderson State? Is it your Austin P? Is it your Universities of Memphis? Is it your Tennessees? But I'm talking about colleges here in the South. You kind of have an idea of where I'm going with this, right? So, one, who's running the camp? Two, are college coaches going to be there? If they are, who? Is it limited to just one college? Are there multiple colleges? Is this for instruction or for evaluation? Two different things. Is it for instruction or is it for evaluation? Will this camp actually help your athlete, your stud, take the next step? And I'm talking about taking the next step into, dreams and aspirations, right? Or is it just a cool little T-shirt and a couple of drills? Okay, Fascinating stuff. It goes so much deeper than just, well, we're going to another camp. These things are really impactful. Let me just say this up front. There's no shame in not knowing. I've been around the football scene for 3 years with my son. I was well aware of the football scene prior to that. But the unique thing behind this is knowing is one thing, being involved with it, and having to be the leader of your household or a member of your household and working as a team, trying to juggle schedules and get folks here and logistically get folks there. It's knowing can turn to mush. I can't tell you how many days that my brain is just mush. Sure, my background's got a lot of books. I mean, I'm a busy guy, and I know that you guys are busy as well, and your parents, and you've got busy schedules. But I know that you can possibly relate that by the end of the day, your brain is just absolutely mush, and so it can be overwhelming. Okay, but the whole system, if we're not careful, it can, no matter what it can confuse you. Again, that overwhelming nature of it, which is exactly why we're doing this particular episode. So the plan for today, this Sunday, hey, it's a lucky Sunday. It's great weather out here. It's pretty warm out here in the Memphis area today. But this camp for Ben actually occurred yesterday. So it was a 4-hour camp, started at 8:30. We got them there. Players were signing up. They asked their shirt sizes, and of course they gave them, a really cool shirt. And then they started going into metrics. When I talk about metrics, they started to get your wingspan and your height. They started to move into jumps, jump distance. They started to they did measurements on the 40. They did a couple of drills to look at individual player stances and blocking and things of that nature. Again, no pads involved. Very chic, very simple. But a lot of folks came out. There were multiple high schools that were represented. Your Millingtons were there. I saw Mumfords, several Tipton County. Tipton County is just north of Shelby County, which is where Memphis is. Saw Collierville was represented, several suburbs. A couple of Memphis folks came out. Had an opportunity to see them yesterday. So it was a good representation. Several high school players were around. Had several ninth graders that were actually there from the Bartlett area. So was really excited to see that. But back to the plan for today, I was going to walk through the 3 main types of football camps that you'll hear about, particularly over the summer. Again, the first one is going to be an exposure camp, followed by a skill development camp, followed by an ID camp. An exposure camp is actually where the goal is to get seen by college coaches. It's pretty self-explanatory, an exposure camp. Then you have something called a skill development camp, where the goal is to get better at your position or your overall game, your holistic overall game. And then, of course, we have what we call an ID camp. Like your driver's license, it's your identification. So this is an identification camp. This is where a specific college program is actually identifying potential recruits for their team. So they're seeding, if you will. Almost like I mentioned a little earlier about the scout talent. Okay, this ID camp is for that. Is very, very similar to that. It's where a specific college, is actively identifying potential recruits. Each of these camps has its own value. But knowing which one to attend and at the right time can make all the difference between burning out your athlete and giving them a true opportunity to grow. I'm going to say that one more time. Knowing the difference between these camps, it will make the difference between burning out your athlete and giving them a real opportunity to grow. We'll also hit on costs and, of course, timing. and how to tell if a camp is a real opportunity or just a money grab. I'm going to say that again. There are differences in camps, but there's also costs that are associated with them, timings associated with it, and we'll talk about how to tell if a camp is a real opportunity for your athlete or if it's just simply a money grab. Again, talking about the cost, some camps, I think Christine and I paid like $50 for the Henderson State camp. Okay, so they could be nominal. Once you start to get into larger schools, a lot of maybe some D1 programs that may be a little more. We haven't gotten there yet, but I can see some of these camps, being up there based on notoriety of the school, depending upon the school, obviously. So grab your pen, let's open up some notes, and let's just jump right into it. We're going to define, each of these camps. Won't be too terribly long, so I'm not going to drown you out for this one particular episode. But play this in the background, just be thinking about it, and let's have some fun. Okay, so exposure camps. Exposure camps are all about getting seen. All right, like your resume, right? You apply for a job, you send them out, you focus on the highlights and things of that nature. Well, in football, your highlights are actually physically what your athlete can do. Okay, so you're exposing them in these camps, and they're about getting seen. Everything is individualized. My son Ben is not going to have the same vertical or the same wingspan as some other players, so on and so forth. So it's all about individualized approach. These are the lights. The lights are on. The radar guns are typically out, and of course the stopwatches are running. Stopwatches running kind of events, right? So the 40-yard run or 40-yard dash, however you want to call it, 40-yard dash, 40-yard run. Tomatoes. But what's important is they're getting data, they're getting metrics, they're looking at, okay, well, this is somebody that could potentially add, some value to my team and might be worthy of, keeping their name around. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see metrics being taken. They're going to be throwing velocity, 60-yard dashes, things of that nature. Exit velocity off the tee. What's the overall goal, though? As I was looking at it yesterday, from what I saw yesterday, when it comes to these exposure camps, is to get your athlete on as many radar guns as you can. All right. Like Instagram, like social media, the more you're out there, the more the coaches know the name. And you better believe these coaches are looking at Instagram and Facebook and social media. That's a whole nother episode. But you better bet your bottom dollar they're out there. They're out there on YouTube. They're scanning this stuff. They may not have, buku amounts of time during the day to go through every individual second of it. But like ESPN, you can bet your bottom dollar they're looking at highlights. And if you've got a freshman that's running, a 4.440, 4.640, you better believe that at 14 years old, oh yeah, names are out there. Okay? So that's what I learned, yesterday. I think that with these exposure camps, multiple schools are actually involved with this process too. So multiple schools are in attendance, much like yesterday. There were several schools from around the region that were involved with it. You could have, I think that it served a huge benefit. The benefit being that you can get in front of 10 or 15 programs at once. Keep in mind, exposure camps, you have multiple schools in attendance. That's multiple colleges, right? That being said, again, it's like almost like a buffet of schools. You're getting your name out there. You know, it's you're shotgunning your athlete's name essentially in front of 10 or 15 programs at one particular setting. But with exposure camps, don't expect a lot of instruction. Those camps are about performance and essentially impression. Okay? They're not about teaching. Exposure camps are not about teaching. If your athlete is not game ready, an exposure camp may not be the best place to start. Remember that. If they're not game ready, may not be the best place to start. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay? Skills camp. A skill development camp is for players who want to learn. Out of my son's football career so far, and this is going on to his third year, from going from 12U to middle school, now into high school, we have gone to 2 skill development camps hosted by the Bartlett program. That is where my son had an opportunity, along with his teammates, to learn. They learned about offensive line. They learned about their defensive techniques. They learned about the defensive line. It was a host of things. They're usually run by one school's coaching staff and are focused on position-specific drills and overall improvement. You may know this, but I had to learn as we were involved. So if your athlete's a lineman, like I mentioned, moments ago, that Ben had an opportunity to go to a skill development camp, and that's what they taught. They talked offensive line stuff, defensive line. They did cross the lines between both. The boys were young enough to understand that, one side was offense, one side was defense, but here's where we're going to blend the lines a little bit, and we're going to teach you a little bit about both. So if your athlete is a lineman and wants to clean up their footwork, this is where that magic is going to happen in these skill development camps. Think of it as getting a mini private lesson, but college style. There are a host of skill development camps offered this year, and we look forward to getting Ben involved there as well, particularly his lineman camps. Parents that are listening, here's a tip for you. These camps are great for young athletes who are still learning the game, or they're not ready for high-level exposure. They're still learning the game, or not ready for high-level exposure. But they're great for getting to know a program's coaching style, which is why I choose to be there just to kind of sit in observance. Now, no college coach so far, knock on wood, maybe soon, has said, "Hey, Doc, why don't you come on in and sit down? Why don't you observe the program? We'd like for talk about this on your podcast." Nobody's gone that far just yet. Nor would I think. I don't know that Ben would appreciate me sitting in the bleachers. You never know. I might have a beverage over there and be acting a fool of some, in some way. I don't know, just through sheer excitement, or may say something, or may cheer somebody on, and embarrass my son. And that's what I don't want to do. I wouldn't want to be that parent that sits out there and causes a problem, and their athlete, go into quicksand, and not be able to come back from it because their mental state's like, oh, my parents here, they're an embarrassment to me right now. And so, I wouldn't want it to affect his gameplay. So, but at any rate, if I did get an opportunity, obviously, I think that would be truly interesting to just kind of sit and watch. But again, it would allude to or provide some insight into that type of coaching style. Our third one, and I promise you I'm going to let you go here in just a little bit, but I don't know, we know that we've talked for about 25 minutes. Try to keep these things relatively short for you all, because I know that you're all working adults, and don't want to take hours of your time up. But the next one is your ID camp. This is an identification camp. Okay? These are very intensive, very laser focused recruiting events, if you will. Okay? Laser focused recruiting events. They're, again, often hosted by one college with a specific goal of identifying future roster candidates. Period. I'm going to go into the talent pool of a local district. I'm going to intently cherry pick who's going to be a prospect for my roster. And that is what an ID camp is. They're small, and sometimes invite only. Coaches are watching. They're watching super close because they already know something about your athlete. Maybe from a referral, a tournament, a game, a season, or a recruiting profile. I'm not going to jump into recruiting profile, but I will talk about that in another episode. But these ID camps are, again, small and in many cases invite only. But it's because those coaches already know the name. You may have a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old that is a track star and has already been ranked at a star level of some sort. And, of course, that name has gotten out there, and that coach's interest has been piqued by saying, I'd like to see that individual again. Oh, I know that name. I think you understand now. So you can expect a mix of drills and live gameplay in those ID camps. This is where, and look at me, this is where you want to show up early, and you want to make eye contact, and you want to hustle, but more importantly, you want to be coachable in these camps. In your ID camp, I'll say it again, show up early. Make eye contact. Hustle. And be coachable. Because guess what? All eyes are on your athlete the whole time. A tip for you, if you're seriously interested in playing at that college, attending their ID camp is non-negotiable. Okay? You want to go to Tennessee, go to their ID camp. Get your name, do what you can to get your athlete's name out there. An important thing is to look at, got to identify, and I addressed earlier in the episode that you want to know the difference between the three. You've got to determine, so how do I know which camp is right for my athlete? How do I know which camp is right? Okay. Well, here's a simple guide. If you want to get noticed and you're game ready, choose an exposure camp. If you want to develop skills and learn from the best, go with the skill camp. If you're aiming at a specific school, lock in for an ID camp. Just remember that not all camps are equal, and they're not all built for recruiting. Some are actually fundraisers. We talked about that earlier. Some are truly evaluative, and some are both. So let's talk about the money side real quick. Camps aren't cheap. $100 to $500 per camp is typical. All right. I mentioned a little earlier that we paid $50 for Ben's camp to Henderson State. Had an opportunity to meet some of the coaching staff there, and was, even for a small school, for Henderson State out of Arkadelphia, Arkansas. I physically had to look it up. Very nice staff, very hands-on, very welcoming. For a first experience for me as well, being a parent of an athlete, I was impressed, and you know, I can't negate the fact that, you know, I was extremely excited to see Ben go through his first camp with Henderson State. I don't think I would have chosen another camp as a beginner camp or a starter camp, if you will, to get that first exposure. Ben was tired after 4 hours. 12:30. I picked him up yesterday after 4 hours of being there. My guy was tired. But for you, as a parent, you have to be strategic. Ask yourself these questions. 1, who's attending? Will there be actual recruiting going on? And are any other schools invited? Who's attending? Will there be recruiting going on? And are there any other schools invited? A camp that looks amazing on a flyer, who doesn't like a good graphic design, right? Sales, advertising, marketing. Who doesn't like something that just reaches out to you and says, hey, bring your student, bring your athlete to our camp and get fired up about it? A camp that looks amazing on a flyer might just be a money grab. But the right camp can change your recruiting journey. As far as parents and staying around and being involved with the do's and the don'ts, if you will. As a parent, I know I play a key role. And if you're listening to this and you've got an athlete, you play a key role as well. So here are some tips on, you know, do's and don'ts, things that I've even learned. Do encourage hustling. Do encourage your athlete to talk to the staff politely and ask meaningful questions. Encourage your athlete to follow up with thank you notes and highlight videos. Whoever thought about that? You did? I know I did. But yeah, follow up with the highlight. Follow up with a thank you. Hey, I appreciate the time you took to say that my play was a needs improvement, or my movement was, you know, you're ready for the college level. You know, something. Don't do this. Don't overcoach from the sidelines. Don't corner the coaches at the camp. One, it's awkward, and two, it's downright unhelpful. Post every stat online, or don't post every stat online and expect calls the next day. So out of this episode, the takeaway should be this: not all camps are created equal. Know what you're signing up for. Know what your athlete needs, and make each camp count. So in this episode, we talked about exposure camps, getting seen; skills camps, getting better; ID camps, getting recruited. Play smart, be intentional, and don't burn out chasing every opportunity. Chase the right ones. Thanks for tuning in to Seams and Downs. If today's episode helped you clear things, or helped clear things up for you, give us a follow on YouTube or wherever you get our podcast from. And hey, if your athlete is headed to a camp this summer, send us a pic or a story. We might feature you on a future episode. And until next time, keep hustling, keep growing. Listen, learn, but more importantly, be a good teammate. See ya.